afternoon. We are live for today's WISE Power Hour. Thank you so much for joining us. For those of you who are joining on Facebook Live, thank you so much. And feel free to use the comments. We do review those and include you in our discussion as well. And for those of you who are joining via our Zoom, feel free to use the chat box as well. I'm Sarisa Richardson, and I am one of the business coaches at the WISE Women's Business Center, where we are working very diligently to provide services that assist women business owners in our area. So I'm Sarisa, like I said, and I'll introduce Barb. Barb, you're muted.
Okay, there I go.
She is.
I'm on my phone now because I don't know what is going on with Zoom on my computer. So hi there. Hi, I'm Barb Stone, and as Teresa ended up saying, I'm with the WISE Business Center, and I'm also a business counselor there. And we're glad to be able to do this Power Hour. So I just want to let you know about the WISE Center. The WISE Center helps female business owners in Central New York to help develop smart and successful business strategies. And we offer free, if you don't know this is free, one-to-one coaching, free online learning, and free virtual networking opportunities because we are committed to your success. We want to be able to make women here in the community really successful in what they are doing and what they're really, really passionate about. But the important part is that we are really a resource for you and wanting to be able to help you because we are diligently over the past few months developing content that addresses our biggest business concerns. We have it. We all are business owners, and also for you to be able to support that you've got the resources that you need to do as you get through this COVID. So stay engaged with us on Facebook, follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram for access to extensive knowledge base around what you are what important topics are for you to be able to keep your business going, whether it's in financial literacy, whether it's best practices, whether it's remote technology and cyber hygiene and cyber security, as well as accurate and up-to-date COVID-19 resources for your business. As a matter of fact, happening this week, we have had a series of resiliency training for individuals through COVID, which has been an unbelievable great resource for business owners, and it's a great resource for us to use with our clients. And Module 7, which is going to be mitigation of reduced travel and outside activities on your small business. It will be going live on 7/29. That is today at 5 p.m. So you can go online to the WISE Women's Center. It is the WISE Center at wisecenter.org, or go to wisecenter@syr.edu to be able to get a link to being able to join this. It is a great resource of information that you can help guide you in through all the issues that you are having at this point in time. So with that, I apologize that I had some technical difficulties.
No worries. Thanks for that introduction, Barb. So today is just going to be a bit of a round table. We are going to open up our round table with a really interesting and I think effective discussion topic today on relationships. So building relationships that matter for your small business. And specifically, we'd like to have a bit of discussion reflecting on COVID-19 and some lessons learned. So before we get into that discussion, I'd just like to offer the opportunity for any of you who are registered on Zoom and attending us via Zoom, would you like to introduce yourself? Just give us your name and your business name.
All right. Hi, I'm Autumn, and I own Painted Lady Studios in Syracuse. Well, DeWitt, technically, but.
Awesome. Well, nice to meet you, Autumn, and little baby Autumn. Who else do we have?
What should I do? She'll find out if I'm not sick.
Carrie, if you're talking, you're on mute, darling.
Okay.
Yes.
Technology. Now, my name is Carrie Valenzuela. My business is called Amaranth Press and Bindery. I do handbook binding and letterpress printing, art prints. Pre-COVID, I was about to start the community print shop, and that went on pause. So it's been a huge adjustment of everything, and still got some technical learning curves here with the Zoom and all that. Yeah, and the relationships have been great that I've new people coming in and really help hold me up and keep me grounded throughout all this mess. So I'm really appreciative of the relationships that I've had and made since COVID hit.
Yeah. All right. Anyone else? Okay. So thanks for introducing yourself, Autumn and Carrie. And so we are going to run this session just as a general roundtable. We don't have a guest speaker today. But I do invite you to come and join our Power Hour each week. We have it Wednesdays at noon every week. And occasionally we do have a guest speaker to lead us through the roundtable as well. So I really wanted to throw out a bit of a guided discussion point, if it's okay with all of you. The first is, since we're talking about relationships, how do we identify, or how have you identified which relationships, quote unquote, matter for your business? Whether it be during this time of COVID or even prior to the pandemic. How have you been cultivating and identifying key relationships?
And I'm going to pipe in as you're thinking about key relationships. Think about who is your banker, your accountant, your insurance person, your lawyer, your vendors, your customers. Think about those key relationships. What has that changed at all? Has it been impacted? And what have you done to be able to really tap into their resources as you're going through this COVID?
That's a good point, Barb, because what I appreciate about this topic is, as a business owner, when you think about relationships, you think about, at least I do, I think about strategic networking. I think about my clients and customers, and really relationships as it relates to your business. It sort of extends the whole gamut of who are all of your stakeholders. So in how you engage those stakeholders, it may be different. So you may have a special newsletter that you send out to your clients, and that's how you engage them weekly, bi-weekly, or whatnot. And then maybe you have a different touch point that you use for those that you're in relationship with for business. So your accountants, your personal, quote unquote, board of directors, you would like to update them differently at a different frequency.
Carrie, have you done anything different, or Autumn, like to pipe in on this?
Well, I for sure have gotten more onto these Zoom networking meetings like this Power Hour, and I've also been doing monthly meetups with the Laura Thorne. She's a consultant. She's had classes through the WISE too. So she has a monthly accountability buddy that she's been doing, and that's been pretty helpful. Just to keep on track. And my whole life has been turned upside down. Business, work, home life, everything has just been swept off the table since March. So it's been a huge amount of stress and trying to plan, and that hasn't really been my strong point anyways. So trying to be more strategic about it, and having help with Sarisa and, Laura helping with the accountability, and just like trying to get everything back together. And I don't have any strategy per se on how I'm doing it, but just trying to pick up the bits and pieces the best I can and figure out really what my business is trying to do, my main goals yet again.
Yeah. So I feel like one of the main challenges that business owners have been facing during COVID is figuring out how to effectively get our brands out there, tell people about our business. And pre the pandemic, it was slightly easier to do that organically, right? Because we were going out, we were meeting people, they were introducing us to people. So we got some really good flow of word of mouth, and now we're stuck behind these devices, so it's almost like this paradigm shift of networking. So Gary, you mentioned a really, good tool, these Zoom meetings and doing roundtables like this is a great opportunity for you to get on a live, introduce yourself and your business, and then people can now at least hear your business name and spark interest to looking up your business. So I think, in terms of a strategy, a networking strategy that we have seen employed a lot recently is going to some of these virtual networking events to supplement the fact that we don't have that organic networking opportunity in person anymore for now, for the time being.
Yeah, and it was already hard enough to get out and about too. Like, Autumn, I got a 4-year-old. Like, my nights are not at the gallery events like before. So yeah, so things are definitely like different in the last 4 years. Like, oh my gosh, I got Corona hairdo here, and just like everything.
Yeah.
Being a mom, being a business owner, trying to put life back on track. It's hard to find the important things, and like I'm trying like hell, of course.
Yeah. So back to our discussion point of pinpointing or identifying those key relationships for your business. One tool that I like to use, I'm a big list person and note taker. One tool that I love to use is I like to list out sort of this stakeholder map and use it as my communication guide. So I'll give you an example of what that means for a business like mine, which is a retail business. So key stakeholders to me are my customers, right? So my clients, we all have them. And then my employees or staff, right? And then I'm just gonna call them business partners. So these are like my banker, like Barb mentioned, my accountant, and my realtor, things like that, right? So let's keep it simple and say those are the 3 stakeholders that I engage, often, or that I engage as a part of doing business, right? One thing that I've found that has helped me through this pandemic is getting on a strategic communication schedule with those groups of stakeholders. So it's almost like, how when you're in business and you write your business plan and you identify your target market, and then you like segment that market, like who are your customers? You're kind of doing the same thing with these people that you're in relationship with. Now you're segmenting your relationship groups, and you can say, okay, if I'm building an email list and I'm already creating this newsletter, maybe I segment the newsletter list to include these stakeholder groups and I outreach to them in different ways about different subjects that they would be interested in, not me, right? You know, me communicating with them is not about me. It's about them as a business owner. So, you know, what do my customers want to know? They want to know about events. They want to be informed and educated. And then, you know, as a salesperson, I provide sales and marketing information, right? What do my employees need to know? They probably want to know how we're operating during COVID. They need to know any standards that are changing, guidelines and things. That's a different set of information. And maybe I don't have to give that every week. Maybe that's something that I give as needed. And then my business partners, so those strategic business partners that I'm aligned with, they kind of just want updates. You know, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Do you have special events? How do you need my help? So my call to action to them would be different than my call to action for a customer. So that's one strategy that I've been using in this time in terms of managing relationships and identifying key relationships. Barb, do you have another strategy that you'd like to share?
Yes. So before this COVID happened, and you know, Autumn, I'd love to somewhere along the line hear about what's going on for you with your business, because it's like just how that is affected, as we've talked a little bit about Carrie. But one of the things that was so important for me, because I started my business, I quit my corporate job at the end of 2018. And what was really important as a coach, a leadership development coach, was really about networking. So if there was a networking, I've got networking meetings in Watertown, in Cayuga County, in Syracuse. I was there. And then I also was so involved in chambers. And so come March, everything stopped. We couldn't meet any longer. But as a coach, and I had clients actually throughout the world, I was using Zoom. So one of the things I did was say, hey, because these relationships that I was developing in the networking was really, really important. And I ended up going to the networking groups and saying, hey, let's do this on Zoom. And so what we ended up doing, and we had been meeting maybe each group had been meeting only twice a month. Everybody wanted to meet on a weekly basis. So we were meeting every single week. And what was happening is on Zoom, only one person can talk at a time. So that therefore, you know, you really started to get to know people in a different way. Not only did I do it with the networking meetings, I also did it with chambers. I offered help to chambers in Liverpool, Baldwinsville, and Watertown, and saying, hey, how can I help you? Because I think that's the other thing what we need to end up doing, especially as business owners. We need to run business, but we also need to be able to say, what else can we do to help give back to the community and to our organizations? And what ended up happening was, because of the Zoom, we are only one person can talk at a time. So I started to get to know different people that I hadn't had a chance to get to know. And from there, what I did was I started making connections to those people, and I had side conversations with them, just as if I were at a networking meeting and wanting to really be able to do that. That was really, really important for me, because I still wanted to continue to grow my business. And I was actually able to continue to get clients that way, is that they got to know me, got to know what I was doing. The different chambers, I got involved in doing a coffee talk every Tuesday morning for Liverpool Chamber. And it really started, people started saying, hey, who's that Barb Stone? And so it's whatever, that was what was one of the number one relationships that I had before the COVID, and I continued to cultivate that. So, you know, I'm thinking of what are your other networking meetings that you can remain connected to either get the support you need. Obviously, you've got the WISE. Obviously, tapping into, you know, your accountant, tapping into, you know, and I'm going to go back to the WISE, because the WISE Center, working with one of the business counselors, we can help you start thinking about brainstorming and how do you need to change and how do you need to pivot that. Because ultimately, this is something that happened to all of us, but we've got to re-look at the businesses, re-look at my customers as to how can I better serve them. Do they know of any other referrals for me, because I'm in a service oriented? And then also I started creating some new relationships with some lawyers, insurance people, to being able to better understand the impact of this. I'm not in big business, but I know that this has impacted business. What's that? Okay, somebody say. It has impacted business. So if you're in a business, what is your insurance saying as far as interruption, business interruption? So people are now starting to take a look at different things that have affected their business, so that if this does continue, or think about what you need to do differently, tapping into everything. You're in the, it was great talking about a newsletter, Sarisa, that is really targeting some of your stakeholders so they know what you're doing. That is so important to allow people to know that.
Yeah, I feel like, so we're almost talking about a couple things. That's the first is identifying relationships, and then we're also talking about cultivating relationships. So many of the strategies we're sharing is how to cultivate those relationships after you've identified them. Barb, I like a lot of the resources that you mentioned and just shared as to how you can identify new relationships. So certainly a tool or resource available to you are local chambers. So, and there are various chambers. We've got UMEA, as well as Center State CEO. And then you've got your local community small business association groups like the WISE Women's Business Center and other centers. I'd like to talk a little bit about, Barb, while we're talking about resources that helps to identify relationships. The KeyBank Boost and Build program that we were going to have Tamika come on and talk about is actually a really cool program in that it sort of puts all of those resources into one place. So if you are by a computer, you can take a look at that at boostandbuild.org. So it's specifically it's designed to stimulate economic growth in our areas, Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, and Albany, by partnering with organizations that provide technical assistance to entrepreneurs and small business owners. So it's certainly a resource you'd like to check out, because again, what it's doing is pulling together the small business services in one place via the CUES collaborative services. So that's one example for some resources that are available in the community. And again, each of these places, so the WISE Women Business Center, Center State CEO, Upstate Minority Economic Alliance, each of these centers have our own events and tools and resources that are available to small business owners in the area as well. So it helps to sort of get on their email list, each individual group's email list, so that you can attend those events like Barb is saying, because again, we're trying to supplement the fact that we can't just go grab a coffee with people anymore, right? At least for now, in the time being.
Well, one thing that's been overwhelming to me is knowing all these things, Sarisa. Like, I know there's so much out there. Excuse me, I'm eating lunch and stuffing my face, so I put it on. I don't have to see that, but seeing all these resources has been incredible. I know it's out there, but it's just been kind of overwhelming to figure out what exactly I need. So that's been helping me to think about it. Like, I have a learning curve with the technology, so that's a little bit, but at this point right now with everything going on, I think that what I need first and foremost is to get my finances in order. So that means I gotta, figure out my relationships in that way. So I do have an accountant. I don't know if I could pay her right now, but I definitely have record keeping things to put together, and I need to get hold of that stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, it certainly does not, if you have a good relationship with your accountant, it wouldn't hurt for you to give that person a call. I'm sure if they have a relationship with you, they're understanding, everyone's in this sort of pit of turmoil right now with the pandemic, and she may be able to work out, something special in terms of payment plans or delayed payment, things like that.
Well,
so
I don't even know what to ask her yet. Like, it's just like, oh my gosh, I need to get hold of everything, all the numbers, and cash flow statements, projections, all that. So yeah, I know that Megan, she had emailed me about the Dream Builder app or website, which helps with that. So yeah.
That's to do it on your own. But, Carrie, you and I talked about, one tool to use is how could you delegate some of those activities? So again, I don't think it would hurt to give your accountant a call and to try to work out some form of plan that would work with you, whether it's a net 30, net 60 payment plan, or even a broken up payment plan. I've had a lot of success with many of my business partners, including my vendors, just communicating my challenges, my financial challenge as a business owner operating during a pandemic, and have been able to receive some of these services, in a way that is mutually beneficial for the two of us.
And Teresa, that is really the point here, is being able to create the relationships with people. Carrie, if you're talking about your accountant, it's really about being honest, and especially if you've developed a relationship and they're really working for you and they're with you, just really saying, hey, this is what's going on for me right now. Help me through this. Or even bankers, hey, I've got some problems here, obviously with the COVID, with the I know some businesses that are actually really making sure that they've got that relationship, they're cultivating that relationship so it's a go-to person, and they really understand and they want to help, because we're in this, I keep on hearing we're in this together, and sometimes it's overused, but we are in this together, and people want to be able to support. It's like you've got a relationship with Teresa. She wants to be there to support you through this process. Your accountant would want to do the same thing, and having them support you in where you want to go. So that relationship development at this point in time is so important, and really being honest about it.
I feel like this is really the time where we've really been, as business owner, testing these relationships, right? Aligning with business partners that align with our values. We see a lot of that going on right now. Aligning with business partners who are willing to have some give and take during a time of challenge, the most challenging time being now during a pandemic, and then you making very difficult business decisions as an entrepreneur. One of those business decisions may be not working with a business partner who's not being in the right relationship with you right now, so I think this is really the time to start to test some of those relationships, ask tough questions, share the challenges you're having, so that, like Barb is saying, so that you really know that you're in relationship with someone who's in this together with you.
You hit a really important point, Sarisa, and that was the value. You know, when you're going out and you're trying to find the accountants, the insurance, the lawyers, you need to really end up seeing if they're going to align in your values and they're going to be able to follow through for you and what you need. Just this morning, I had a 9 o'clock client and we were talking about this. They were having problems with their accountant and they were having problems with their insurance. And so we ended up really talking about, who is it that you want? What is it that you want? Really being able to outline it, but also interview people to find the right fit for you. And if it's not, there are people out there that can help you and that are aligned with your values and aligned with your vision and aligned with being able to support you in the manner that you want. And they have that knowledge to be able to do it. So
and
very important.
A part of that is negotiating, right? You know, one of the, if we want to sort of talk about some of the lessons learned, one of the lessons learned that I really grasped, you know, hung on to and continue to hang on to during this pandemic is building up some resilience in my negotiating skills as a business owner. I don't see any way you can continue and progress in business if you are not comfortable negotiating. And unfortunately, it is a very uncomfortable thing. You know, at least for me personally, I find it very uncomfortable, but the more and more that I have to do it, the more I realize it is such an important business skill. As someone who owns a business, is such an important skill that is not going to go away, you know?
Yeah. And I love the words resilience and skill, because you know what? And what you ended up doing is through this time, you recognize that you needed to be resilient. So what ended up happening is you kind of like, wow, honing in some other skill to being able to help support you and move you forward. And one of that was negotiating skills. For me, I think the resilience of really being able to kind of pivot and kind of start taking a look at what else is out there and how can I make the connections to the people that I really want to be able to serve, not only as a partner in the community, but also for clients that are needing my services at this time. So I think I had to develop new skills to being able to try to hone in on some other networking. And I think, Carrie, you got talking about so much information is out there, and it's like, because what's happening is you're taking a look at your business and trying to tap into resources that are going to help you with the new skills to be resilient. So it's like, you know, for me, I'm finding that there isn't any right or wrong. It's like, what is really fitting in with your values and what is really fitting in with your gut that tells you that this is the right thing for you, because it's not a one shoe fits all. It's like, take a look at the resources, what's out there, and seeing if it's really going to end up working for you.
Yeah.
Great point on the resilience and skill.
So I'm just curious, for those of you on the phone and live on Facebook, what sort of lessons have you learned during this interesting time? Because this has been an extremely challenging time as a business owner, especially for myself being a first-time business owner and a startup, you know, during, you know, in the midst of a pandemic. You know, I have, you know, several lessons that I've learned during this time, but I'm just curious what other lessons other folks have learned that they would like to share. And I'm not gonna put anyone on the spot. If you're a little more introverted, please feel free to use the comments or the chat box. And you could also private message either Barb or myself as well, if you're in the Zoom. So Barb, what other lessons have you learned?
Oh, wow.
You're a multi-entrepreneur as well, running several
Yeah.
things.
So lessons that I've learned is, I started taking a look at, okay, what do? I do some coaching, speaking, training, but I've had to, I think what I've learned is to really listen to what my customers need or what my networking group needs.
Yeah.
And then say, okay, this is what I can talk on, or this is what I can do, but what is it that you need? And so what has happened is that I ended up going like for the Liverpool Chamber. I ended up saying, what do you need? And they go like, well, we need somebody to start working on doing some coffee talks to be able to get the member population engaged. We really need to end up doing some information, getting information out there. We call it Member Wednesdays, where we really say what's going on in the chamber, because this particular organization that I have found it has continued to thrive. And the reason that they're doing it is because they're listening to what the population needs and how can we communicate, as you said earlier, Sarisa, about like newsletters, really targeting it to your customers or the stakeholders. So what ended up happening was we really started determining that there was this need to, although we couldn't meet, how could we stay together and how could we have the dialogue of what is really affecting people. So what happened for me was I really needed to be able to start thinking about how I could further share and really contribute and make an impact and activate someone's thinking and thought process to another level, as I was doing, that we are and we can serve and support each other.
Mm-hmm.
There was a comment that just came in, I think.
Yeah, I just saw a comment said, one thing I've learned is a business savings equals, let me see, strength. Business savings equals strength. And that's correct. Cash is always king and queen. I would say, one financial lessons that businesses learned is to really set aside and maintain a rainy day fund. We do it at home, and not many of us as business owners do that. Have a bit of a cushion or a slush fund that covers those fixed expenses that will not go away, should you are not able to make sales, are not able to bring in the revenue that you thought. You will still have those fixed expenses. So it only makes sense, just like you do at home, to have a little bit of a bank, just in case. So yeah, that was a really good comment. One thing, Barb, like you were mentioning, and I think you hit the nail on the head. One thing that I feel like every business owner has learned during this pandemic, in order to be resilient, is learning different ways to diversify their streams of income. Yep. So you mentioned one strategy is reaching out to your customers to identify what they need and how they see value, how they see you bring value. And that's key, right? Talking to your customers and finding out what they need. But I would venture to say as well, talking to all of your stakeholders on that list, because you never know what income generating opportunities will come out of those discussions. Actually, I'll give you an excellent example for how I have grown my business during this time. And it all started with a cocktail and some girlfriends. I am not joking. So I opened as a pop-up shop, and that required me to physically go and pop up a little boutique at various locations. So obviously when the pandemic hit, my primary revenue generating opportunity, which is popping up physically and letting people try on things and talk about what's new in store, that went away. It was, halted. So here I am. That's not going to stop what I already have delivered. It's also not going to stop shipments that I've already got, in the pipeline. So I have new things to show people, so that was my challenge, is how am I going to get the word out about these new things? How are people going to get the touch and feel of these new things? So prior to engaging my customers to even get any of their input, I started having conversations with sort of my business partner stakeholders, hey, just want to let you know, this is a challenge that I'm facing, I'm scared I might have to close, things like that, just engaging them the way that I would my personal board of directors, getting them updates about my business, key updates about my business. So business updates. And one comment that came out of that is, hey, I actually need to get, one of my business partners, not a customer. I actually was looking for something and wanted to know, what do you have new in store? I was looking forward to your pop-up to see, would you mind just getting on a call with me and showing me? So in the conversation, I'm like, of course I don't mind that. And then while I'm going to do that, why don't we just have a glass of wine too? I miss you. We haven't seen each other. Yeah, let's talk about clothes over some wine. I could do that. And that conversation turned into, I think other people might want to see this. And that turned into asking some of my customers, hey, would you join me on a Facebook Live if I did this, or Instagram Live if I did this? Yes, no, maybe, and that really resulted in what you see now, which are my virtual sip-in shops that happen monthly, all from literally a cocktail and some girlfriends. So just, I don't ever want anyone to think that any one sort of relationship matters for your business. They all do in different ways. And then, like I said, Barb, the one lesson of diversifying your streams of income.
You know what I love about that story, and I truly believe in this thing, it's the power of yes and it's like, yes, Teresa, go for it. And yes, but you know what it is? It's also, you had your tribe of people around you. You had your tribe of friends.
Yeah.
So it's like, who is it that you've got? And sometimes I think we are always thinking we need to have this right and that right, but it's also, somebody can end up throwing an idea out to you. It can be a friend, and yes, it can be a counselor, or it could be an accountability partner, but it's like saying, hey, yes, and because they're going to end up bringing a different perspective of something that we're not seeing. And that's when you end up getting all the support of all the relationships around you, no matter if it's your bail, if it's your counselor, if it's your friends, if it's your family, and they can be honest with you, and you can be honest with them. And it's just like, well, it's a way of looking at this thing and a different perspective, which is so important. That helps you build that resiliency.
Yeah,
which is
it
what
forces
you
you to be a little nimble and shifty,
Yeah.
So I mean, 2020 has been many things, if not insightful, but it's really just shaken up, from a business owner's perspective, it's shaken up what normal means. So a normal stream of income for a storefront is people coming into your store buying things. If you want to shake that up and turn it on top of its head, how do you do that? And 2020 has forced us to think about that. How do you turn a brick and mortar restaurant into something that, you know, my 82-year-old grandmother can enjoy from her home? You know, how do you modify that experience? So COVID in one way, you know, in many ways has been devastating, devastating to many businesses. But if you can be nimble enough, resilient enough, creative enough, I think it creates some opportunities that you can, when we come out of this at some point, maybe, or we'll all be zombies. I'm convinced that this is just the start of the zombie apocalypse. But anyhow, we could joke about that later. So when and if we come out of this, we might just have some new streams of income that only helps our business survive a bit longer.
You know, and when you started talking about brick and mortar, I ended up having a client yesterday, and she's in a startup business mode, and she had really planned on really starting this business back in January, February, and then guess what? COVID hit. And so it kind of put her a little bit behind, and she really wanted to be up and running by December. But we started taking a look at it and started brainstorming. So it's like, yeah, pivot, take a look at it from a different perspective. And I'm going like, well, you know, why is it that we can't, you know, start thinking about this business, doing it in a different light that, yes, it's not going to be the brick and mortar that you want right now, but you can still do it. It's just a different way of looking at it. So,
yeah,
you know, we're starting to go down that road, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, well, we'll you know, the brick and mortar is in the future, but what can she do now to be able to change a little bit of that perspective of where she's going with that business?
Yeah. So it's the yes and
yes,
the why that I feel like has really, those two sort of strategies, you know, can you ask yourself why on some things to help generate that creative thinking? And can you say yes and what does that move you towards?
Yes.
I like that part.
Yeah, and it builds on each other, and that's where it's like so important to be able to have the people that you're in your back pocket. It's a relationship so that you can brainstorm and have yes and it's like when you least expect it, it happens. It's like you were just sitting around with a bunch of girlfriends having a glass of wine, and it's like, yes, and wow.
Like, yeah, we can do that, but can we record it? And if we record it, will other people watch it? And if we're recording it, why don't we just do it live? You know, let's take away all that extra editing, you know? So it's scary though. I mean, let's be honest, you know, we're scared as business owners. We absolutely are. It's scary, but how can we push through our fear and do it afraid, you know? And what success is on the other side of the door when we do that.
But you know what? You had that support of your friends, and it's like, So and trying. I so totally agree. It's like going live and doing all this stuff. And I think, you know, Carrie was talking about the Zoom, getting to know the technology. It is so scary. But we can support each other. We can be there for each other to be able to know that there will be maybe a new revenue stream, new way of doing business, but you can, with your passion, because you were just so passionate about your business, Teresa, that it's like, I want to get it out there. And so, you know, let's do it. Let's try it. Yes, and.
I love that. So if you all are just joining us, I'm sorry because it's 12:50 and we only have 10 minutes left. But this is the Power Hour that we host at the WISE Women's Business Center live on Facebook, and you can register for it to attend via Zoom as well, so that you can introduce yourself and we can learn a little bit about your business. and we host this weekly at noon as well. So if you're just joining us, in today's roundtable topic, we've been talking about lessons learned in building relationships. So I'll just summarize some of the really good points, Barb, for those of us on the call and those just joining. So we talked about cultivating relationships as well as identifying relationships. And we talked about some tools as to how to do that. So using local resources to identify like new Zoom events and things like that, because we have to figure out new ways to get ourselves out there. We talked about, we provided some strategies in terms of segmenting your stakeholders. So we talked a little bit about that as well. And then some of the lessons learned, I think the main lessons learned that we shared was how to diversify your revenue streams and your product and service delivery to your customers. That's been really garnering business owners success during this crazy, crazy time. Barb, what else, how else would you wrap this up today? What else would you use to summarize?
Yeah, I think that there's so many resources out there, but I think that you don't have to go through this alone. And I really would like to end up saying, just come to the WISE Center. Go on our website, wisecenter.org. Take a look at the resources that are available there that you can tap into. You can sign up for the counseling. You also, and I'm going to do another plug for the resiliency training, module 7, because we've been talking about a lot of resiliency. And this has been a great series, packed of information to be able to help you. Tonight at 5 o'clock, today is 7/29, and it's going to be the last module, but not only this is going to be the last module, but you will be able to get to see the other modules on the website. And again, I'm just going to keep on saying, it is packed full of resourceful information for you and for your businesses. So if you're interested in it, just go to WISE Center at Syracuse. You can email wisecenter@syracusesyr.edu, or go to the website and sign up for it. So I wish you well, and I wish to see you back here at Power Hour next Wednesday.
Yeah, thanks so much for wrapping us up, Barb, and I will see everyone next week.
Sounds good. Be well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
You're welcome.